Welcome to Season 2 of the Pull Hook Golf Podcast. Here's your hosts, Matt Cook and Bobby Brown. Welcome back, everybody, to Pull Hook Golf, the podcast. I'm Matt Cook, this is Bobby Brown, and this is episode number 44, The Collapse of Collin Morikawa. Oh, just destruction. Death and destruction everywhere, folks. It was a sad, depressing Sunday, but we'll get into that a little bit more as we go along here. So we've got some main topics that we're going to cover tonight. We've got the Sentry Tournament of Champions recap. We've got the upcoming Sony Open where Bobby is out there at Waialae Country Club right now. And we've got the LIV Golf Exodus continues. So we will be diving into all of those topics. But first off, Bobby, how was your trip to Hawaii?
Good. It was good. It was a good trip. You know, I left on Saturday. I have some relatives that live in Phoenix. So I left Saturday morning. The family dropped me off and there was no crying. I thought they were going to, 5 and 9 years old. They've been emotional a couple times doing that, but it was pretty smooth. I mean, Lori was pretty cool. She's probably wanted me the hell out of the house after 40 days, 35 or 40 days. But I bribed my kids with they make these taffies over here. I think they're hard to find in the state. They're called high chews, little high chews. They're little watermelon or sour apple or a bunch of different flavors. So I bribed my 5-year-old with those, and it was good. I went to Phoenix on Saturday, spent the night at my brother's house, had a quick flip turnaround to catch a 920 nonstop on Southwest. Nobody laughed. It was I upgraded my boarding pass to like 814 or something like that because I'm trying to angle in on those two seats that don't have anyone in front of them, right? So I boarded the plane and I looked and I'm like, holy shit, there is a good chance, because there was 2 families in front of me with kids, that I'm going to get one of those seats. And it was a brand new Southwest Air Max plane, literally brand new. And that means none of the fat asses on the plane that sit in the exit row can decompress the seats, which is good for my bad back. And I got the fucking seat, and there was nobody sitting next to me. So I watched golf and football, not in that order, football and golf the whole flight. I tried to stay up late at my brother's, so I would sleep on the plane, maybe drop a melatonin or something. But man, I was so comfortable. I was more tired flying from Charleston to Phoenix. But yeah, I made it safe and sound. Landed about 1:30. It's always a disaster getting your luggage here, because they have 4 flights that come in on the same time on a small carousel. So I jockeyed through that, got over here about 3:00. I'm staying with Micah, our man Micah.
Oh yeah.
This week. Waited. He was about an hour. He was about an hour behind me. So I went and grabbed some food. Obviously, there's some good food here. I haven't done any sushi, but there's a place here that everybody knows about. It's called Marugami. Let's see if I say it right. Marugami Udon, and it's a Asian place, udon noodles, and they're famous for their fresh udon noodles. So the last not tonight I had a salad, but the last 2 days I went over there and got their chicken teriyaki is phenomenal with udon. I don't know if it's the sauce or it's because it's so fresh. They make the noodles right in front of you. So yeah, things are good. I went out and walked the golf course. When did I walk it? Monday morning, super early. At like about 7:00 when the sunrise is here. Kind of gave Troy a little report. He came in last night. We got through 18 holes. We played 18 holes today. So I'm pretty fired up. My back feels pretty good. I mean, I don't do any weightlifting in the gym or anything like that, but I set a new record for me yesterday. I got on the bike after walking 9 holes. I did 6.5 miles on the bike. That's pretty good. And the last 2 or 3 miles are on a pretty good upslope and a bunch of core stretching, with the yoga ball and that kind of stuff. And did 18 holes today. I was a little bit, my legs felt great. The back was a little stiff, and that kind of runs down my right thigh is usually the key. So I went back up to the gym right after the round and got after it and did 3.5 miles and a bunch more stretching. So wow. I'm pretty fired up. A couple days before I got over here, I'm like, the season starts. I hate leaving the kids and that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden I had like this thing, and I'm like, I'm fucking fired up for this year. I'm going to move quick to the ball. I'm going to give good quality information, and I'm ready to make some money. We'll see how my guy plays. He's obviously not a big practicer in the off season, and came from Boise where the weather's not the greatest, not conducive for something like that, but a 10-year veteran. He just looked okay. He just looked okay today. He got progressively better as the as the round went on. So I'm excited to get going. We got the first tee time. We're not going to get a lot of wind this week. I think one day we're going to get some wind, but usually we get some pretty monstrous winds out here. But it looks like light and variable on Friday. So I was kind of hoping for an early late tee time, an early morning tee time on Thursday, and try and get some fresh greens, and then a later tee time on Friday because they usually don't want on Friday. But with no wind, I'm like, I'll take it. I'll take it. And the tee times came out while we were on the golf course, and we got first off on Thursday, and then at 7:10, and then first off on Friday in the afternoon at 11:50. So I'm ready to get going, man. I'm pretty fired up for this
You look
season.
good. You look rejuvenated. You
I
look
am.
motivated.
I am.
Yeah,
I
you got a
am. I
look to you
totally,
right now.
I feel healthy, I feel healthy. And when I feel healthy, I have a clear mind and a clear way of thinking. And I always love coming to Hawaii. Honolulu is progressively getting a little, I don't want to say gross, but dirtier every year. There's a lot of homeless rolling around, unfortunately, and I don't know. I just feel like I'm up at 4:30 or 5 in the morning every morning, and I'm raring to go. There's no better. Look at that view behind you. I know it's
I
a little
know.
blurry for obvious reasons,
Yeah, I
but
mean,
you know,
got
yeah, I know.
Wildlife
You
Country
told me,
Club here right
yeah,
behind me.
yeah, and there's not a better place to start the year. I mean, it's a super flat golf course. Most of us are out of shape, but it's just great views and it's chill. It's relaxed. It's not a very huge driving range. Nobody can really overwork themselves, and everybody, I don't think anybody has a lot of expectations. I mean, your upper echelon guys probably do, especially the guys that played Maui, of course. And I'm ready to go, man. I'm ready to get it going. Tomorrow was Thursday. We got the pro am tomorrow. We just do a little 9 holes at 12:33. And you know what the tough thing is when you live on the East Coast and you have kids and you want to talk to them, that the timing is so 5 hours different it's
It's
so
tough.
off. And yeah, it's tough. It's tough. But my 9-year-old's back. Soccer's practice started up again last night, so they're getting ready for the season. So everybody seems happy. Lori hasn't lost her shit yet. It's only been 2 days, and that's probably coming pretty soon. Sorry, honey, but that's just
I
fact.
shouldn't
I'm
laugh with
waiting.
that
I don't
evil
know.
laugh.
Every time, what?
I
What?
shouldn't laugh with that evil laugh. That
Well,
was
it's a
an evil
fact.
laugh
I
out of
mean,
me.
that no, it's not an evil laugh. It's a realistic laugh. I mean, we all, whether it's me or Mike or anybody with kids, we all go through it. It doesn't happen that quick, but when it does happen, and I'm trying to think when Lori snaps or has a bad day at school or the kids are not acting great, how am I going to respond this year? And I'm going to play, you know, Stuart Scott cool as the other side of the pillow or whatever, you know what I mean? But I do want to fire out, but we've been doing this for fucking 12 years now. Are you not, you know, you need a Venmo, you need a Zelle. What do you need, sweet pea? So, how was your last week? Good.
You know, Bobby, that there's been now I'm going to start off with this. So there was a
Okay.
skins game out of Mountain Shadows today. It's the pro game
Mm,
that you've been telling
right.
me about
Does
forever.
everybody who listen to us know that we're diving more and more every episode into Matt's
Yeah, oh
golf
yeah,
game a little bit?
you're coming into my world.
Okay. All right. Right. I like
I'm
coming into
bringing
your
you
world.
in. I'm prepping
Yeah.
you because I figured it out. It's going to be at least a year in training. The waste
Yeah.
management dream is over. I'm not going to try to
Okay.
Monday qualify. I had a
Okay.
rude awakening on Saturday. I told my
Yeah.
fiance because we've got the wedding coming up, and I'm like, you
Right.
know what? Let me go ahead and see. Let me put some pressure on myself. Let me make sure. And went played a decent track out here that there's a lot of wind, and it's up in the mountains, and I was just like, you know, I got to shoot under par. And I put a lot of pressure on myself. And sure enough, in the
Yeah.
wind, I hadn't played in the
Yeah.
wind in a long time, just went downhill in a hurry. So I shot over par and
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it's over. So back to the drawing board and
Yeah.
not necessarily to the drawing board, but basically, you got to put in a good year. You got to at least
Yeah.
train yourself up and do all the right things. Like at least I'm
Sure.
with a personal trainer. Andrew's absolutely phenomenal over at PFS, and that's the training facility in Scottsdale. Golf
Okay.
specific. He's a top 50 Golf Digest personal trainer in golf, and really doing some great things there. So I'm seeing a lot of improvements. Right, swing, just the ability to move. But moving away from me for a second, because you know I like
Hmm.
talking about my golf game. No, I really
Hmm.
don't. But the
Hmm.
skins game at Mountain Shadows, that pro game that you tipped me off to,
Yeah.
I actually wanted to get in this week, and I found out that
Yeah.
no, you couldn't this week because they carried over. Apparently, there were all halves. There were no skins divvied out over like the past 4 weeks. So this
Right.
game was like a 6x game today.
Right.
So there was a
Right.
lot of guys out there, and sure enough, a birdie got it done. A birdie, Bobby. So
What
birdie.
does that make? What does that make that guy for
So he
one
ended up
birdie?
getting 20K.
Oh, no wonder they didn't want you in. They don't want any poachers dropping in that didn't
Yeah,
ante up before. And I get
exactly.
that.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
The other thing is, so Friday, this past Friday, sure enough, sure as shit, knew it right off the club face. Hole in one on hole number 5 up there at Mountain Shadows. Pin was all the
Wow.
way up front on. So there's a little false front, and then there's a little tier, and then right behind it, it drops off. So I hit
Hmm.
right into that false
The
front,
false.
one
Yeah,
hop,
in the
dunked it.
bucket.
Yep, right in the
Well,
bucket.
that had to feel great.
It really did, Bobby. That's my
Now,
third.
is that an executive course or is it just a straight par three course?
Just a straight par
Executive
three
mean
course.
Gotcha, gotcha. There's a lot, and I disagree with them, but there's a lot of people. There's one caddy out here, that I disagree with a lot, even though he's my friend, that fucking Kip Henley, who thinks he knows everything about everything. And he's got this rule on Twitter that if you make a one on a par three course, it's not counted a one. And that's the silliest thing I've ever heard in my life, because a one's a one. I don't care
Yeah.
if you're playing a par three course or not. A one
I'm a
counts as a one,
savage.
doesn't it, Matt?
I almost today, because off of the first tee, we thought, well, we played a breakfast bowl off the first tee today because I came straight out of the car this late afternoon, hopped on the first tee, hit the first shot, chunked it. Then, so I'm like, breakfast ball, guys? Everybody else hit bad shots, so everybody's in. We thought I made a hole in one on the second shot. I would have counted that as well. So
I
don't
would.
think
You
that.
cannot do that. No, 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 no. Slow down, Turbo. You can't do that. Getting back to not changing the subject, but congratulations on the hole in one. What
Hey,
a great
thank
feeling.
you.
Did you have to buy any cocktails or anything like that? What a great feeling.
Yeah, I mean there were definitely some cocktails that went around, couple shots of
Nice.
Fireball and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
since it is a par three course, I feel like it is a little bit more tamed in terms of like what the expectations are. Because the
Right.
first two, like you're dropping $1,000 in the bar.
Hmm.
Here, it's like, yeah, you
Yeah.
buy a couple rounds and you're good to go. So
Get
it
out of
wasn't,
Dodge.
yeah, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
So that
Well,
was that
getting
was my little
yeah. Well, I want to go
recap
back to
there.
your dream of the waste management.
Yeah,
Is over. So did you know, talking about the spots that they have there, that it is, I think they're all booked up, but there's like 10 pre-qualifying spots, right? I read
yep,
there's like 10 pre-qualifying spots. And not to crap you out, but more to tell you that you made a good decision. The weakest PGA Tour Monday qualifier is this week, right? They only get about 70 guys, and there's probably 10 to 15 names that we would know. Like you can even find Fred Funk, Y.E. Yang, Matt Every was in there. Steve Marino was in there. Some names from the past, but that kind of local mini tour. That not local, but he's kind of a legendary mini tour player. They call him Big Mike Basaki. Remember, he Mondayed into Tampa, I want to say, and Justin Thomas cut him out a check somewhere to
yeah,
help sponsor him. He won the prequal over here. Guess what he shot in that prequal, Matt? Just not to bum you out, but to tell you,
62.
you made a yeah, I think you're right. I think it was par 72, and he went for 10.
Oh,
So your even par wouldn't have been embarrassed, but it probably, I
it
can't
would have
really compare.
been just absolutely
Yeah,
terrible.
you got
Yeah,
to be ready. You
you
got to be
have to
ready.
be, and
You can't show up to these things and just go, oh, maybe I'm going to get it
no,
going today in a prequel. Not with that much talent rolling
no,
around, right? The last thing
absolutely
you want
not.
to do is come off of there going, oh fucking, not that you embarrass yourself, but it's like, what was I doing? And plus they're expensive, right? $600 or something like
Yeah,
that.
well, you got 250 for the first qual, and then you got 250 if you make it into the
Yeah.
second
So
Monday qualifier. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And you're getting married soon, and money doesn't grow on trees. I know we have $1 million worth of endorsements on this show and everything like that. We're not hurting, but you know, you made a good decision, man. You
yeah,
gotta get to where you feel comfortable. That's for
Well, I
That's
got to
for
get it
sure. But
grooved, right? I got to a place to
yeah,
where the swing has felt really good lately, and it's like,
yeah,
oh, all of a sudden you start getting those thoughts again, and it's like,
yeah,
no, you forget how much you need to have just a full, well-rounded game, and not only that, but you got to be on fire heading into those Monday quals. I mean, you got
yeah.
to be shooting
You got to be
consistently
scoring.
seven,
Yeah,
eight
yeah,
under par.
consistently, right? Consistently. Yeah. So, well, congrats on
Yeah.
the one. That doesn't happen very often.
Hey, I appreciate. I felt like that was a good kind of, a little. Okay, hey Matt, here's
Yeah.
dream for this year is over, but there's always
Right.
next year, and here's a hole in one as a
Yeah.
compensation for it. So
Yeah. I mean, those
thank you,
117
universe.
yard shots are pretty tough.
Yeah, today was not very good by any means either, so I don't want to get into that part of it. But
That's okay, buddy.
let's transition to the
Yeah. Let's go.
recap of the Sentry Tournament of
Woo.
Champions
Wow.
and the collapse of poor Collin Morikawa.
That's an
Bobby,
understatement.
you and I have said it so many times how tough it
Yeah.
is to close out a tournament when you have a huge lead.
Yeah. Well, well, like I said, I was watching, man, this guy was in control for a long, long time. He was not missing any shots. He was burying putts. He had that new grip routine where he gripped it and he went like this and it helped line him up. And then he went back to his stand to a standard textbook grip, but everything was firing on all cylinders. I was watching it on the plane and I've often talked about how a 5 or 6 shot lead with 18 holes to go is fucking dangerous, but which he had that with 18 holes to go, but he looked like he was in control. And I want to say I stopped watching after 9 holes on the plane. I don't know why, if I was getting off the plane or what the deal was, but I thought it was over. I mean, a 6 shot lead with fucking 9 holes to go. But I will say this: when I flipped over to a football game or whatever I was doing, I can't remember. I was landing. I did think in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, there's only one guy that can get hot and run him down, and that would be John Rahm. But I didn't think it was going to happen. But the thought did go through my mind. But I started going to my phone. I had missed like 4 or 5 holes. I started going through my phone, and I'm like, "Am I? I just, the PGA Tour has a new app, right? So I'm not used to it, used to where everything is. And there's like a little, it doesn't stream, but it's like a little ticker that goes on the bottom. Then immediately when it opens, it shows you who's leading. And I'm like, does this say John Rahm is leading right now? And it's not even a T1. So I had to flip back and look at the scores and see that I want to say he birdied 12, 13, 14, eagled 15, right? And I didn't know I hadn't flipped to Morikawa and I didn't know what Morikawa was doing. So I naturally pulled up his scorecard. If I'm not mistaken, he bogeyed 3 of those 5 holes he played those in 3 over, right? Rahm played him in 5 under. So there's an 8 shot swing there. But I mean, listen, I've never had a guy have a 5 or 6 shot lead on a Sunday. I've had Kokrak. I've had a couple guys have 5 shot leads on Saturdays, which I just can't. I can't tell you. Obviously, our friend Micah went through this in Minnesota this year with Piercy. I can't remember what his lead was, but they had a pretty healthy lead too. And whatever JJ Jakovac and Collin were going through, Micah went through the same thing. And I've been in those scenarios before, not necessarily on Sunday. Jesus Christ, 6 with 9 to go. It's fucking over. Isn't it really over?
You
And
would think, Bobby.
there is nothing a caddy can say in that scenario that is going to just snap and make everything okay. And there's nothing a player wants to hear in those scenarios that is going to make them play better. They have to do it. They have to do it on their own. But that is just a capital P for pressure right there. Do you remember last week I was telling you about that dangerous chip shot on 15? If you miss it, it comes down 30 or 40
Yep.
yards, and I called it, and I go, it makes the best in the world, and get. And I will say this: when we all go there, we throw 6 to 7 balls down that hill. We divot the shit out of that thing because they want that shot, because they know if they come out, it's because you can't miss left because it's a bunch of shit on the left. And it was just, it came down to this. He missed an 8 footer, he missed a 10 footer, and he missed a 7 footer, and he missed that green on 16 too and spun it back. And I'm good friends with JJ Jakovac. I kind of helped him kind of sort of. So the history on that caddy, JJ Jakovac, is where he was a stud golfer from Northern California. Okay. He played at Chico State. He was an All-American at Chico State. the two biggest amateur tournaments in the United States, man, as you well know, would be the U.S. Amateur and the Western Amateur. He made it to the Western Amateur finals, and he got beat by a guy that I used to caddy for from the University of Southern California, Chris Botsford. We call him Bot. So JJ is a phenomenal player. He picked up a player that I worked for way back in the day to start his caddying career because he did Monday into some. Man, he played down at Whirlwind. He Mondayed into Whirlwind some years ago, way back when. And honestly, one of my little brothers caddied for him, and he barely missed the cut. And we have a ton of great caddy players out here. And I always think when JJ is playing a lot of golf, he's like the best caddy player because he's a borderline web.com player. But so he goes to work for Thomas Sula. He works his way up. He gets Ryan Moore for a lot of years, and he's a great caddy. There's no doubt about it. But there's two kinds of players out here, right? There's players that like a little information, and there's players that like a lot of information. I think Collin is the kind of guy that likes a lot of information. But when Collin started, so after Ryan Moore and JJ split, and it's a weird scenario because JJ married Ryan Moore's wife's sister, and then Ryan decided to make a split 3 years ago. So that makes it weird, right? So I want to say JJ didn't have a bag for a while, and then an agent called him with Collin Morikawa for the U.S. Open at Pebble, I think it was in 2018, and they hit it off, and he started playing good 2 majors later. And I don't know if I would say this to JJ's face, but as a player's success goes, I don't think Collin Morikawa is an egomaniac or anything like that. I think most of those Southern California dudes are pretty laid back and pretty, they know their spot. Let's put it that way. They're just cool. They're cool guys. But I think JJ's been getting a little like this. And I'm not the only caddy that said that. You get a little cocky and that kind of stuff, and you think you're a better caddy than everybody else. But he sure wasn't a better caddy there for the last 9 holes. And I'm not saying it's on him or anything like that because there's not much a caddy can do. But, man, that is just fucking pressure at its finest, isn't it? I mean, that's a legendary
that was
collapse.
breaking news right there, Bobby.
What? Pressure?
No.
Smart ass.
Yeah, just getting a little stuffy, feeling yourself a little bit.
Well, I think so. And that's a lot of information. I listened to him on all their shots and describe everything. And there's they're throwing out lingo that JJ's throwing out lingo that I've never even thought about using before and that kind of stuff. And it did go through my mind, but he was playing so good. And I'm like, God, his man is really firing on all cylinders because this is over caddying and its finest to me from where I'm standing from. But granted, I've spent the last year and almost a half with a guy who wants a little information. And I've worked for guys that want a lot of information, but I feel like they take it to another level. And I'm sure that's the way Collin likes it because he seems very receptive to that kind of information. And I mean, it's fucking Collin Morikawa, but these are two massive collapses in the last 14 months. And I'm going back to the Hero when he had that 5-shot lead. No, that was all over with early for him out there. But this one is just like, you know what the good news is? I said, even though I got my ass kicked by you, and we'll talk about my pennies and how horrible I am. You know what this is? 4 guys can win it, right? Thank God I picked John Rahm as one of them.
Oh, you did, didn't you?
Yeah, 4 guys.
Savage,
I said it like 17 times. Yeah, that was the only thing. But he was the favorite. Everybody and their mother was probably he was. But at least the scores got back down to.
Do you know I didn't even realize that?
Well, of course, you're not going to give me any props because you are beating my ass on these picks and that kind of stuff. And I was thinking when JJ Spawn had it going and Matt Fitzpatrick was in the mix and Tom Kim, because I was so anti. And if you listen to TV, everything I said was pretty accurate. That it's an experienced golf course. You have to be there. But I was lying. I'd be lying if I didn't think fucking Matt is going to fucking butcher me if one of these first timers win. But I really didn't see it. Even with Hoagie was a first time guy there, and he finished T3 at 23 under. He got beat 4 shots. He never really had a chance to win, but JJ Spawn was in control. He was in control of his game, and he was in the mix until
he was.
I think he had a big disaster on 15 too. He had like 217. It's up the hill or whatever, and he pulls out a 3-wood, and he's trying to fillet a 3-wood, and nothing good happens when you got 2 clubs too many. And he came across it and hit into the hazard and made a pretty sloppy bogey there. But I can go on and say all kinds of shit about, oh, you could have done this or you could have done that. But the player's hitting the golf shots, right? And I guarantee you, Collin made that bogey. What did he do on 14, the short hole, the drivable hole, the semi-drivable hole? I think he hit in the bunker and boned it. over the green.
So
Is that
that
right?
was the shock to the system. That's
Okay.
when everything just
Right.
fell apart
Right.
because he's in the bunker and he had hit a great bunker shot from there the day prior.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've had this experience or not. I'm sure players have that you've caddied for, but you probably have. You played enough golf to where all of a sudden you hit one shot and it's
Yeah.
just everything is going smooth up until that
Yeah.
point, and then it just
Right.
puts a shock into your system,
Oh,
and it's like, what the fuck just happened? I
yeah.
can like all of a sudden you forget like how do I swing a golf club? How do
Right.
I like make a putt? Like
Right.
everything gets jostled. And it's weird because from there you could just see he wasn't the same guy.
No, he
Everything that he had
wasn't.
been working on all of a sudden started coming to light. He couldn't make a putt. And
Yeah.
that's when, and so Costa said it on, I think, Twitter. He was like, listen, swing changes take a long time to take effect to where when you're under pressure, you can rely on them.
Yeah.
Clearly, Colin's not there. But then Azinger said, it is Azinger, right? I'm not losing my mind. One of the broadcasters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's the
Paul.
man.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was Paul.
Sorry. I'm like, for some reason, I felt like that was incorrect. I don't know why. I'm having a brain fart. But with Azinger, he made some really good comments on air about Collin Morikawa and why he was struggling with his pitch
Hmm.
shot because of the bowed wrist and because the leading edge digs
Yeah, he
in.
did. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's like, he
Well,
needs to learn how to use the bounce on the wedge. And I'm going to say
yeah.
this because I have the exact same problem to where I'll get a bowed wrist coming into a pitch and I will dig it into the dirt
Yeah.
and it just, you flub it. It sucks, especially into the grain. And I've always struggled with that. All of a sudden, he's talking about bounce. And I started to look it up afterwards because he's like Jose Maria Olazabal. And then I forget the other one that he mentioned. But you look and it's like, oh, if you go with a little bit weaker of a grip and you let the bounce hit the turf and
Hmm.
same kind of motion, but you cannot be a bowed wrist leading down with that leading edge of the face
Yeah.
because otherwise it just catches the turf, especially when you're into
Yeah.
the grain and you just lay
Especially
sod
in that
over it.
spot. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
In
and
that
that's
spot.
exactly what he did.
Well, I'm going to make two other comments. Okay. First one is Peter Costas is a fucking douchebag. Okay. I'm going to open up with that one because he didn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Because Colin didn't go through any major swing changes whatsoever. Number two, Peter Costas is a fucking douchebag because he's fucking worked for Paul Casey and he thinks he's hot shit because he was on the Telemundo, whatever that fucking thing he was wearing around his
Bobby's
fucking
coming in
back.
hot on the
Well,
Costas.
number three, Peter Costas is a douchebag because he just got fired and he doesn't seem to say anything nice about anybody. So there was no swing changes that needed
Well, the
he
putting
did that.
change, right? I think that
Well,
was
the
the
yeah, well
that's what he
he
was
buried
leading towards,
everything.
I feel like.
You want to know what my fourth comment is? Doesn't have anything to do with Costas. You think it's any coincidence? There's a leaderboard right there next to 14 green too. And when he bombed that thing over the bunker, he probably caught a fucking glimpse of fucking leaderboard right there, and he goes, "Holy shit, I'm fucking tied for the lead right now." And I just did that, and that's just pressure. And you can say what you want. I mean, Azinger was a master at chipping around the greens. I mean, he grew up in Florida. He hangs out at concession where it's as grainy as it gets. So there was only, he's probably a top 10 short game guy. I mean, shit, but don't you remember most of his wins were like chipping in or holding out from a bunker or something like that? But fucking Costas can blow me. He's a fucking douchebag. But it's just pressure. And when you have that
Tell
shot,
me how
when
you
you
really feel.
well, I just did. But when you have that kind of lead and things are going so smoothly, and like you said, and all of a sudden adversity comes up, and now all of a sudden somebody's already ran you down, that when you probably had a hand to both hands on the trophy. And it's one I would never ask JJ this, but I'm like, man, I would think to myself as a caddy, it would hard not to be get ahead of yourself and go, holy fuck, this is going to be fucking over $250,000 for me as a caddy. I mean, I wonder, we're all human beings. If, we try and block all that kind of stuff out and stay in the moment, but sometimes your brain can get ahead of you, especially when things are going so easily or so smooth. And then, and then he did the same thing on 16, came out of a wet, or obviously he didn't hit the right club on 16 because I went back and watched some replays. It sounded pretty solid. So Super Caddy wasn't much help there. this guy.
Oh boy.
So and that comes zipping back, and he makes another poor chip shot. And I'm trying to think because I watched it like every shot every day with the time change at home. I would turn on PGA Tour live and watch the feature groups, and then back east the coverage didn't really start till about 4 o'clock our time, and I literally watched golf for like 7 or 8 hours for just because I'd been there so many times, so I can appreciate all those shots and that kind of stuff. And plus, it's like the funnest golf course to play to start the year and the best place to be. But you know, this is going to go down in history as one of the greatest collapses all time. But hats off to John Rahm. He hit fucking 4 fairways on the first day, right? Didn't he hit 9 fairways in the first 2 days? And granted, he's not spraying it. But remember, I was telling you that's a great place to test a new driver, the Paradigm driver, and that kind of stuff. And
A lot
I
of
know he
wide
wasn't spraying
fairways
it.
there, Bobby.
Yeah, they're 80 yards wide. And I did read something that if you go back and you look at Collin's history there, I think he'd been there two or three times maybe before that, and never finished worse than tied for seventh. And I started thinking to myself, why does he play so good there? It's because everybody hits fairways there, right? So it's a second shot golf course. It's an iron player's golf course,
And
and that's
he's a hell of a
that's
player when it comes to irons.
unbelievable. I mean, he's unbelievable, but it's John Rahm, hats off. He didn't drive it great. He was testing that new driver. He got hot at the right time. 27 under, wins by 2 shots. Collin 2,500, not a bad week, but maybe make $1.5 million and you walk out of there had to feel like absolute shit. And then Tom Hoagie, sorry about TCU and everything like that. Tommy, you went to TCU and that was a bloodbath, but a pretty good.
That was a terrible game.
And he's a first timer that was right up there at 23 under, and he tied with Max Homa. Max Homa had a horrible first day and came fucking firing
Dude,
back.
Max Homa played some golf the last 2
God,
days.
how good does his
Holy
action
shit.
look right now? How good does there's not a lot to go wrong with that move right there. And he,
And
tied for
after a
third.
baby, by the way, Bobby, you have a rule on this that everybody
9
that
times
has
out
a
of 10.
kid,
9 times
he's
out
the
of 10.
exception, huh?
Yeah, 9 times out of 10.
All right.
Apparently, he is the exception. But once again, my Southern California angle. There's another dude from Southern California that doesn't get too worked up about anything because SoCal guys are a little more chill than the other coast or
God,
the
why do us
Midwest.
New Yorkers have to get so worked up over everything? I was so
New
moody
York's
on the
not.
golf course.
Yeah, that's okay, man. It's just a game. Your boy Tom Kim was right there the whole time. He finished ninth, a little tied for fifth, 22 under with another first timer. JJ Spawn was right there. I mean, that's 3 first timers out of the first top
Bobby,
5 finishers, basically. What?
you know who was a big surprise that our social media guy Brad was like touting ahead of time that
Who?
we shit on was Zalatoris, and he comes out
Well,
and
we
he
didn't
ends
shit.
up. I shit on him. I shit on him big time
Well,
because I'm like, there's
but
no
listen,
chance you're coming off of a back
I didn't
injury.
shit. You just asked me what I thought, and I just said he had to get one under his belt. He looked super rusty the first 2 days, right? And then he kind of kicked it into
He looked
gear.
good.
He looked comfortable. He finished tied for 11th, 20 under, ran by some guys. Well, let's just talk about your boy Tony Finau. I mean, he careered his best finish out there when I was shitting all over him for a little tied for seventh there. But I don't know. It's a bomber's track and that kind of stuff. And I know he's been putting good and that kind of stuff. But I could be way off. But you got to make a lot of putts out there, right? You got to be
You do.
a super putter. And I don't think with the way John Rahm hits the golf ball and that kind of stuff, anybody gives him enough credit that he's like one of the best putters in the world, because fucking he is, dude. He is. Scheffler had a horrible Sunday. You shoot 2 or 3 under there and you just get absolutely lapped. And he fell back to seventh, I think, but still got beat like 6 shots. And you could see his, when we had Scotty McGinnis on saying he has his little hissy fits, you can see he has his little hissy fits. Matt Fitzpatrick had a good week. He was probably disappointed he finished 7th, but he's another first timer too, along with your boy Zalatoris. I think my boy Billy Spencer had a tough week with Sung Jae. He had a little 4-putt there on 13
What'd
or
he end
some,
up finishing? Because he was
he
up
finished
there
like
for a while.
13th. How about this? A $15 million purse. It is so top heavy, right? 2.7 to the winner, 1.5 for second, 800 and something for third. But you would think a guy like Sung Jae, who didn't have a very good week, he put the squeeze on him a little bit early on Sunday, but that's kind of a bullshit squeeze because the leaders haven't really teed off yet, or they're going through 1, 2, and 3, which historically are the toughest holes on the golf course. You just want to make a few pars and get into the flow of the round. But he finished T13, and that only gets you like, I shouldn't say this, but it only gets him 250 or 260 grand. And then the biggest disappointment crushed me. Justin Thomas, 15 under, tied for 25th. What a horrible showing. I knew I was in trouble against you all week on the first day when Justin didn't have anything going on the front side. He got through there like even or 1 under, and then he made a couple birdies, and then he hit one fucking double cross one left into the shit on 17. 17's about fucking 90-yard wide.
Well, he started
They
pressing.
say it's only 40 yards wide. It's actually like 80 yards wide because there's another extension of the fairway that goes to the right.
He started pressing. Bobby, I knew he was in trouble when they came out with the story before the first round about how he went to his junior high putter.
I didn't like that. I didn't need to see that. Yeah. Middle school or junior high or something.
Yeah, I knew I was in the money at that point.
Yeah, I bet you did. Why didn't you be nice and say, I'll let you off for 900 pennies? I wouldn't have taken it because I'm a competitor. My God.
I'm not a FanDuel, okay? I do not give cash
Settle
outs
down,
early.
Bob. Sports book, sports bet. But he wins a major with a mallet putter and all these victories with a mallet putter, and then he goes to that. But I guess that's the week to try it. But my guy Justin, when he played with Max on Saturday, he made a run at you on Saturday, Justin, to only get 2 behind Tony. So I'm like, God, I got a chance on this, right? And then he got off to a shitty start on Sunday, and he was 2 or 3 over right off the bat, and he rattled off some birdies. And I'm like, oh, of course I'm watching Tony because now everybody knows our other bet was I was all cocky, like Tony wasn't going to finish.
Oh my God, did you shit on me? There's a clip on Instagram about how you just trashed me for that when you said, oh, you got to be kidding me. You didn't do your research, you idiot.
I did say that. I did say that.
And I knew it the entire time. I'm like, oh, that's the kiss of death right there.
It was.
For me, I was like, you know what? Tony's been hot enough at the end of the year to where he's not. Yeah. If he can putt, he's going to have a shot.
Yeah.
The problem is that he didn't putt the greatest, and he didn't actually even play great. That's the crazy thing. He didn't.
I played great on
the
first
par
day.
fives. Yeah,
he shot 6 under the first day.
No. The first day, because I watched every round, and that first day I watched him intently because they had him and Morikawa as the 2 in the featured group on ESPN Plus.
Right, I did. And
so I watched them the entire 18, and he didn't capitalize on the par fives on the back nine. He parred. I believe every single one on the back. Maybe 18 he birdied to get to 6 under, but he did not he played okay, but it wasn't great. Like Morikawa outplayed him by far. Here's the other thing. I put out a tweet that, and this was on Sunday before the collapse of Collin Morikawa. Okay. I said, if Collin Morikawa can putt, that is a scary thing for all these top guys in 2023, because
it is
his iron game, his wedge game. And what's kind of weird is that driver that he's hitting, it has a ton of roll to it. He hit it past Tony a couple times.
Yeah, but he's got that flight though too, right? He's not really close to And those are chaser fairways. Those are known for chaser fairways. So if he gets one in the middle of the club face with some tumble on it, he's going to throw up 1 to 3 drives around that are going to get by. But he's not in Tony's league as far as distance goes. But I will say, as Tony was finishing, I'm like, oh my God, don't birdie 18, because you were hanging at that 9 line. He's T13, he's T11.
I needed that one, Bobby.
But you want to know what the bad thing was when he posted at T7, because he finished, there were still 3 or 4 guys on the golf course playing 8. You knew playing 18.
Bobby, I couldn't
get one of those. I couldn't. I was like Cage Lee and 2 other guys and maybe Fitzpatrick, and I'm like, I got 4 chances to bump this guy to 9, and 18 is not the hardest par 5 on the golf course for sure. It's just not at all. You can get something up there. You can't miss that fairway. I mean, I've seen one guy miss that fairway in like 15 years, and that was a guy I was working for. Dustin Johnson hit it out. Right.
So Bobby, how many pennies? How many pennies do you owe me?
6,000 pennies.
Wow. God,
pennies.
Guys, I am rich right now.
I'm the worst.
6,000 pennies. I mean, Tony Finau comes up big. Bobby, what do you have to say about your your comment about Tony Finau.
I'm sorry, Tony. That's all I could think of. How dare I disrespect you like that? Matt didn't do his research, but you're just so good.
I did my research. You took my pick, which, by the way,
Think,
you didn't do your research because you didn't realize that Justin was going to be playing with his junior high putter that
well,
week.
nobody, how would you have known something like that? You know, it's funny when Justin was all comfortable playing with Max, he played great, all chirpy and talky and
Oh
everything
yeah,
like that.
they were
And
hugging each
when he
other
gets
out
picked,
there.
oh yeah, bro, club, hey, bro. So, you know, whatever. I looked like an idiot, but I always look like an idiot with my picks because I'm not that smart. And I just give little tidbits of information on the golf course, and
You
you
got to
know,
know the
and
horses, Bob.
I do. And my horsey did not run very fast last week, and yours got out of a gallop, but mine never ever hit a gallop. But it's golf, and there's a
It is
new
golf.
week, and I can get some, and I can,
So let's
you
talk
know,
about it. The
yeah,
upcoming Sony Open.
you know, it's just a great place to start the year. I walked, you know, I told you I walked 9 holes. I got up super early with Micah and drove over with him and his player SH Kim, the Korean, the young Korean that I've been raving about, and their agent Danny O. And I went and walked nine holes at like 7:15, 7:20 in the morning. It was still a little wet and it's a little dewy out there. And I didn't see, they had to play in an 18 pro am. I didn't really see the backside. I only saw the front because it was a 10 a.m. shotgun. So I had to be out the golf course. I couldn't get in anybody's way. So I'm like, oh, this is standard. Other than I noticed the rust grown up more than it has been the last couple of years around the greens and some sneaky spots. But I thought it was pretty receptive. And then we went out there and played today at 9 o'clock. And you can see the greens are changing color already. The fairways are starting to move. It was just completely opposite of what I saw yesterday. So we are not going to get a lot of wind this week, as I had mentioned before. We might have one day with 15 to 25 mile an hour winds. I think that might be, excuse me, on Saturday. So hopefully we'll take care of some business. I don't really have any thoughts about you know, all the tournaments that I've worked over the last 15 years, Matt, I could think of every single one where I've had a guy that's had it 2 or 3 times that's had a chance to win. I've never had a guy here that's really had a chance to win. I think I had Kyle Stanley a couple times that like backdoor top tens on Sundays, maybe finished seventh once and ninth once, but I've never really had a player out here, which is weird because I feel I've been here with some talent before. It wasn't the greatest golf course for Dustin, you know, the early Dustin years, because it's a ball striker's course, right? It's not
Were
as tight
those
as it used to.
were those the
What?
years with the sideburns? Those ham
Yeah, and the
hocks?
bell bottoms. Yeah, the bell
Yeah, I
bottom
got you.
sideburn.
The
I'm,
70s
I'm
porn star look. I got it.
70s porn star that partied pretty hard, and it was the week after Maui, and he always played really good at Maui. Almost had a chance to win every year I was there with him, so he probably wasn't that. He
DJ, I
wasn't
only
that.
say if you're listening, DJ,
He ain't
if
listening. You don't
your
have to
buddies
worry.
are sharing this with you, just know that this is pure jealousy out of
Yes,
me of those
yes,
sideburns and of those bell bottoms and being
yes,
a
yeah.
70s porn
That you
star.
can be such a pimp and look like that and still get so much tail, even though the average ranking on 1 to 10 of the tail scale years were always 6 and 7, Dustin. So, anyways, no big deal. So, course is in good shape. It's going to be moving firm and fast. It's a ball strike. It's a ball striker's course. Last year, Hideki won that Grande playoff at 23 under with Russell Henley, who Russell Henley, you know, his very first tournament turning pro on the PGA Tour some years ago, won this tournament right off the bat. First start on the PGA Tour there, 23 under. Seamus Power was really coming into his own last year, you know, as a force. He finished third at 19 under. He tied with Kisner. Kisner always plays good here. They had a couple long shots up there that were in the mix. Michael Thompson was 18 under, I think. He was tied for fifth with Lucas Glover. Adam Svensson was pretty good, 17 under last year with Keith Mitchell, Cooch, Russell Knox, Corey Connors. You know, there's a common theme there. Other than Michael Thompson, you know, all those names I mentioned are premier iron players and premier ball strikers, and nobody is going to be, you know, bombing over corners here or anything like that because this golf course is not set up for something like that. So, you know, God, I remember coming back here in years where like 14 to 16 under would win it. And then last year you got a playoff for 23 under. So that just goes to show you the talent pool. So, you know, I don't know where we are. There's one threesome that I really like to watch. And I'm just going to jump ahead and say, I think the winner's coming out of this threesome, Russell Henley, Tom Hoagie, and Kuchar. I don't think Kuchar is going to win, but if I was going to pick I'll tell you who I'll tell you. I'll try and help some people out. I really like Russell Henley here, and I really like Tom Hoge. Now I know Tom Hoge had a great week last week. You know, he caught. It was well documented that he caught that. He's a TCU guy, so he caught that flight out of Maui on Sunday night. Went to SoFi for the game yesterday. He's on his way coming back today. But I'm going to say about 5 or 6 years ago, when nobody but us internal guys knew what a great ball striker was, Tom Hoge, he hadn't come over the hump yet, but there was a Sunday some 5 or 6 years ago where he was going to win this golf tournament. And on 16, this kind of good, it's a good par four, little dog leg right to left with a big kind of tree that sticks out. And he knocked it in the fairway, pulled his approach shot, if I'm not mistaken, into this left bunker, left it in the bunker, walked out there, make it double. But he had a chance to win. And I think Tom Hoge is a much better player than he is now. So I do like him. Obviously, your boy's the favorite, I would imagine, this week, Tom Kim. I don't really pay attention to odds or anything like that. So Tom Kim's got to be the favorite, and Hideki's got to be right up there too, after having a decent week last week and winning here before. But I like Russell Henley.
Wait.
Whoa.
Before you say your guy, are we gonna
Yeah.
drop another 1,000 pennies here? Is
Well,
there
yeah,
a
but and I
wager?
shouldn't even say that that's my pick. That's who I like, because you
Oh,
are
I
the
got you.
champion of the world right now. So the champion of the world goes first. I'm just giving some
You want me
guys.
to go first? I was
You
gonna
have
give
to.
you
That's
the
the rule.
ability.
No, I picked last week. I got my fucking ass kicked, and the only reason I picked last week is because I won 1,000 pennies somewhere before that. So
We
the winner gets to
have done
pick.
the previous one.
The winner
All
gets to
right.
pick who you want. I know who you're taking.
No, you're absolutely wrong right now. You think
Okay,
that I'm gonna be going with Tommy
I got my
Kim?
caddy pencil right here.
Yeah,
Who do you got?
you think I'm going with Tommy Kim,
I do.
and guess who I'm going with?
Who? I'm waiting. Well, I thought the
It's
screen
no,
froze
no,
there
no,
for a second.
no.
Are you taking right now? Are you
I
taking Russell Henley?
no, no.
All
I
right.
am taking. I just don't know if he's in the field,
Oh,
which is why I hesitated.
you want to throw a name at me?
Yeah, JJ Spawn.
He's not. No, he's not in
No,
the field.
okay, I'm going with
No,
Tommy Kim
no.
then.
You
I
just
didn't
look
look at
like an
the entire
idiot
thing,
right
but
there.
no, but listen, I was listening to your analysis. I played
Yeah,
this off of your analysis that it's going to be a great ball striker. JJ Spawn is a great ball
yeah,
striker.
he
So
is.
I'm
Yeah,
sitting there licking my chops going, hey, if he's in the field this week, because yeah, I was kind of on the Tommy Kim train, which I
yeah,
really
that
just
too.
wanted to surprise you, and
Oh, you
I
would have.
couldn't. Yeah, it wasn't even in.
You
That's
want to
an
hear a
automatic
funny? You
thousand
want to hear a
pennies.
random? You want to hear a random Bobby Brown, JJ Spawn story
Would love
from
it.
just okay. Here's just something totally random. So I was a really good soccer player and a really good little league player. Me and my little brother Gary, and there was these two studs that were like studly athletes. Their name was Jack Spawn and Brian Spawn. Guess who they are? One is JJ's dad, and the other is JJ's uncle. And I played soccer in Little League against these guys. So when JJ was coming up through the ranks in San Diego, I'm like, God, I wonder if he's related to these guys. And then JJ's Spawn's agent is one of my best friends, Kevin Canny. And I'm like, hey, where's he from? He's like, oh, he's from San Dimas, California. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's where I went to high school. And then I met JJ, and I'm like, hey, is your dad? And he's like, yeah. He goes, I know who you are. My dad was talking about you. And I'm like, oh man, it's fucking such a small world.
Three
But
degrees of
it's not like
separation, Bobby. Small
I
world.
know, but that's just a random Bobby Brown bullshit story. So you got Tom Kim. There's a fucking surprise.
Did you buy
There's a
yourself
fucking
time in order to figure out who you're gonna pick this week?
No, I was already going to be on Henley or Hoagie. I just hadn't figured out
Yeah,
which H I was going to go because that's my analysis. I thought
I'm
you were going to go in
so
and
curious.
I came onto this show 2 hours ago before the show started, and I was all about fucking Tom Hoagie. But this whole TCU thing has thrown me
Yeah.
for a loop, and he can get fucking moody out there. And I know Russell Henley's a gamer, and obviously he is a fantastic putter, and obviously he is a super fantastico putter here at Sony. So we got I got Russell Henley, you got Tommy Kim, chalk against semi chalk. But I do like Hoagie a little bit, but that's our bet. Kim against Henley. I'll
Do you
give
think
you a little
Henley's
long
gonna
shot.
rock a visor this week? A Georgia visor
Uh
in the
he
group with Hoagie?
no, he's that's a Kisner fucking thing. I mean, these Georgia guys, there's like 40 of them on fucking tour. They're all studs, right? But he's Kisner's the only one that plays it off like Harris English and all those guys that went there, and Brendan Todd and Chris Kirk and Grayson Sig, they're all chill guys. I mean, I told you I love Kiz to death, but I mean, his social media is up here and his golf game is yet to follow where he is. And I think he's going to be, a good player for some years to come, but I don't think he's going to be the Kevin Kisner until maybe the match play rolls around and he gets so full of himself because he knows he can take guys down and frustrate them. So that's our bet.
Do you think there's going to be some? Well, hang on a second. Is there going to be any shit talking between Russell Henley and Tom Hoge? No.
Yeah, because Henley's sneaky funny, will do some ribbing and that kind of stuff, and Hoagie likes action. He kind of talks like this a little bit, you know what I mean? And he can get a little bit flustered. So sure, there's going to be some shit talking, but
I just wonder if Hoagie's going to come for revenge off of that championship game.
That could be a good angle.
Do you think we should add an extra 1,000 pennies for who finishes? If I go Hoagie and you got Henley, should we do an extra 1,000 pennies here?
Slow down,
out of your own group.
I'm propping. I don't want to do that because I like Tom Hoagie too much, and I don't want to root against him. And I was going to pick him up until 2 hours. I was going to pick him up until 2 hours ago. But I'm going to help
to bait you. I tried.
Okay, I'm going to give you a little sneaky long shot pick, a Bobby Brown long shot pick. I like KH Lee a little bit this week. He's had some good finishes here in the past. He's a ball striker.
He's a sexy man,
sneaky
too.
Straight. He's so sexy. They've had their first baby. That baby's over a year old now. So he's obviously comfortable with being a parent. His wife, Julie, takes care of all the stuff on the road. They all travel together and that kind of stuff. And I just feel like he's really coming into his own. He's really a gem of consistency, as you would say, if it was the daily racing form for a horse race. So I like him a little bit. I'm going to tell you one guy that's going to shock people that I don't like this week. I don't like the fat boy, Sung J M. This week. He missed the cut here last year. When I worked for him the year before that, he was being a fucking dick the whole week. He finished tied for 56. He was life and death to make the cut. And there's something about this golf course he don't fucking like. And I don't know what it is, but he does not like it. So for all our guys that take my information and don't flush it down the toilet like they actually should, I do not like Sung Jae, and I like KH Lee. I mean, Tom Kim's I'm a believer now. Remember I said it before. I'm like, I'm not sold on this guy. And then 1 week I'm sold, and then I'm not sold. And then
And you know who touted him from the very beginning?
Who?
Me.
Mr. fucking hole in one from buck 17. Roll a bit
no, it was like 93, bro. It was 93.
So anyways, I don't like Sungjae this week, but it should be fun. But we got to keep it to a $1,000 penny bet because I suck dick. Yeah, I suck dick on these things. That's for sure.
What if Sungjae comes out and wins this week? Oh boy, will you just be destroyed?
Well, I mean, if anybody's paying attention to these picks of mine and these angles and that kind of stuff, I've said it. I have $1 for every time I said that. I've had $37, and if you went opposite of me, you're probably going to show a profit for the year.
But I'm the only agreed because you're not wrong. You just pick the wrong weeks. You pick
I can identify talent.
Yeah,
I can identify talent, but being the old gambler that I am, I don't. I'm not a big dude on picking favorites or anything like that. Any fucking Tom, Dick, Dan Rappaport, Dylan Dethier, or all these guys on fucking Twitter can go, "Oh, I like John Rahm this week," and it's like, yeah, dude, he's 6.5 to 1, and he's John Rahm. How about fucking throwing somebody in there that's fucking 40 to 1 that's within
Kyle
3 shots to lead with? Yeah, he ain't gonna play that good this week because he's gonna try and hit it over those corners. And these rookies, we'll see how Taylor Montgomery. Well, if Taylor Montgomery can scale back a little bit this week and hit some irons off the tee, because there are, there's a couple holes like number 2 out here. Well, he could actually hit driver on 2 and get by all the water, but number 3 out here, number 15 out here are not necessarily drivers. You can roast a 2-iron around here if you're a super bomber and they start chasing these fairways, which they're known to do.
So who's got a sick 2-iron? Tommy Kim.
Yeah, he's got everything, man. He's kind of him and Willie Z, kind of the future of golf right now. And I never thought I'd say that about Tom Kim. I saw him out there today walking on the range, had his whole little Nike outfits, and I'm like, he's wearing the same fucking Nike socks that I wear, and I'm the only one that's been wearing these for years. The ones with the old swoosh on the side. Remember the old thing? I was propping myself. He's wearing those. I'm like, he's fucking copying me, the motherfucker. And he ain't wearing the Jordans, but his caddy Scovrin. I gave him the fucking shit today. I go, oh, you're out of that Puma shit. Look at you're wearing those Air Jordan 1 lows. He's like, I got a lot of them. And I go, well, I know a guy if you want to sell them. I know a guy. Everybody's got a guy. So, anyways, that's kind of my Wile. That's kind of my Wile update. So
Should
we'll keep it at
we?
1,000 pennies.
All right, thousand pennies. Should we dive
Okay.
into our live golf
Yes.
chat here? Because
There's plenty to talk about, man. I never say that about Liv, but there's
me
plenty to
neither.
talk about now, brother. Why don't
I
you lead us
mean,
off with the scoop?
another executive leaves live golf. This is a mass exodus now. And you
Yeah,
were
it
the one
is.
that tipped me off on this one. You sent me some messages last week
I did.
around the fact that this the president, not VP, not director, the president of franchises, which by the
Yes.
way, was a huge way that they were planning on getting the money back for Live Golf is by
Right.
selling these franchises to owners.
Mm-hmm.
And they
Yeah.
gave only equity to 4 players.
Okay.
And with that, it was only a small amount of equity into each team. Now, this gentleman's name is Matt Goodman, who, according to No Laying Up, when the previous exec left, not only did he end up leaving next, but there's also 4 to 5
Yeah.
additional executives that have left as well that
Yeah.
have not come out. They haven't been in the press yet or anything like that. So there is a mass exodus going on. I mean, Bobby, what does this mean for the future of Live Golf?
I mean, it can't be. It can't be good, can it? Remember we were talking about the last couple of weeks how they've been all sneaky quiet, and you just felt like things weren't going the way that they thought they were going to go. So something is up. If they're not talking shit, something's up, and then none of these guys are really talking shit. So maybe this. The big man left, and now this guy's left, and supposedly like no laying outs reporting, and they get good fucking info.
Yeah.
I might get the dirt and the scoop and the gossip out here, but they kind of got another level of getting their information from guys. So I kind of bank with the no laying up guys, what they say. So apparently, if there's 4 or 5 other guys going, I'll tell you what I'll tell you what the problem is. You said now I'm under the assumption that I've heard and read that every team captain gets 25% equity of
No.
their team.
Four
Only
guys ended
four?
up. Yeah. So DJ, Sergio,
Okay.
gosh, the other two. I knew you were going to ask me
Bryson?
this. I
Bryson?
might have been Bryson. It might have been Phil.
Oh,
No, no, no.
Phil
It
Kepka?
wasn't Phil. It might have been Kepka. It was in one of
Kepka and
the
Bryson.
articles.
Okay. 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 So they get this 25% equity. But here's what I know. All is not good there. So everything is changing next year. So the caddy that I'm friends with, but I don't really like it. Anibon's caddy, Tim Giuliano, who I think is like a nervous wreck out there and drives me crazy. So I didn't talk to him personally, but I'm not going to mention this caddy's name that I was having breakfast with yesterday. So here's the deal. And this is bad news for fat ass Perez. Very bad news for the fucking douchebag Perez and Ashley. Here's the deal. The teams have to pay for the travel and the hotel expenses. So the fucking honeymoon is all over, right? They throw these guys all this money. They treat them like kings. They give them everything for free. That's fucking gone now, right? So now the team has to pay for all this travel, all the expenses, and that kind of stuff. Okay, so that is kind of like a little chink in the armor. And then I think from what I've heard from this other caddy that the money, and we've talked about this before, the money they make from the team all goes to Dustin, right? It like goes into account, and he doesn't divvy it out after every single tournament. It's just going to come to the end of the year after all the expenses are going out, or what Dustin's paid for getting sponsors or branding, if they're even going to get that kind of shit with all these guys dropping like flies, all these execs going down. So it's 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 going to be very interesting to see what happens. So this other caddy was telling me that this Tim Giuliano guy was saying, and I got to verify this, was saying that maybe the caddies aren't going to be paid off the team money this year, which I don't know how that can be. But he had said, yeah, the caddies aren't going to be paid off the team money. And I caddied with another caddy today. And I don't want to say his name because he's a really, 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 really good friend of mine, and we go back 20 years. But he verified the same thing, that caddies are not going to be paid off of team money this year, which it just seems so weird. So, anyways, the point is whatever they make in the team, Dustin's going to divvy it up. And I think Dustin's always been, he's tight and he's frugal and he's smart with his money, but he might just come to the point where he's like, so and so didn't earn this, and I wonder if this has anything, you know, when we reported, and it hasn't hit. I don't think it's been really publicized. It has a little bit, but you know, we talked. I told you that Gooch bailed immediately right after
Yeah.
the last putt went in at Miami, and I heard through somebody very close to his team, maybe on his team, that the reason why he bailed was just because he didn't want to deal with Ashley Perez or Justine Reed or Paulina and the sit down dinners and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like things are not going good for them this year, are not going to be going good for them this year. And don't you feel like we were all, in myself, even if I've got over the hate, and I won't say any jealousy because there wasn't any jealousy that these caddies were making this big money and not really doing jack shit. But you still got a caddy, you still got to do your job, and you still got to be prepared. And which all those guys out there pretty much are. I don't like half of them, but I do like the other half. So we'll just leave that to what it is. But I just feel like all's not all's not well in suburbia there. And I got this caddy that was having breakfast with me yesterday morning, who's good friends with Juliana, says, you know, Anibon's very asked a million questions about this, and he's like borderline. He's a nice guy, but he's like borderline fucking annoying. So this caddy was telling me that Giuliano's all worried, this caddy, about what's going to happen the next year or two, because Anibon was asking this executive, well, what about this for this year? And what about that? And they're like, why do you care? You know what I mean? Why do you care? Why are you asking so many questions? And Anibon's a very analytical guy. And I guess he told Tim, he's like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen, Tim, in the next. What if this thing goes belly up in 2 years? Where are these guys going to play? I mean, a guy like Dawson's going to have super status. These major winners are going to have super status and are going to be in so many tournaments. But I wonder if it gets to the point in a fucking couple of years, if this thing goes belly up, where these guys are going to be, wow, we took the quick money for this, and this thing just blows up in our face. Comments, Matt? Comments?
Lots of
I know that was
comments.
diarrhea of the mouth right there by me trying to paint a picture, but it was pretty
I
scribbly.
mean, well, here's the thing. You painted it. I mean, it's dire straits right now. I mean, this is the make or break
Yeah,
year, right? I mean,
yeah,
either they're going to end up at the end of this year with a TV deal to where
yeah,
somebody's going to be paying them, or
right. Which
are
they
the
won't.
are the Saudis really going to continue going down this path of just pouring money into it? And you can already tell that it's already tightening up. I mean, everything that you
Yeah,
just shared is
yeah,
basically, hey, we needed to entice these guys to come over. It's a little bit of a bait and switch. It's a little bit
hmm,
of, hey, come over here. We're going to treat you guys like superstar celebrities. It's going to be a team exhibition, very relaxed. It's a lifestyle tour. You're going to have a ton of time off. Like, this is going to be great for you. And then all of a sudden, hey, the team is going to have to pay for this now, and
yeah,
you guys are going to have to start doing this, and the caddies are no longer being paid by us, they're going to be paid by you. And there's just
yeah,
all these dynamics that are starting to go into place to
right,
where you look at the small print and it's like,
right,
hey, they're business owners, they can make these changes whenever the frick they want to the league.
right.
It's like,
Yeah, they can.
now all of a sudden, I think some of the guys are starting to realize, somebody like Anabon, who does ask a lot of questions, to where they're like,
Hmm.
we have no idea what's going to happen over the next 6 months, let alone the next year
And
or
don't you think
moving
that's why this
beyond.
got? Don't you think this is maybe why this guy, this director, president of the franchise, has resigned? Because like, hey, this wasn't what we talked about. This wasn't part of the deal, or he sees it going fucking
I,
nowhere, right? And he
I
doesn't
think
want to
he
be attached
sees,
to that.
yeah, you want to get out of there as soon as you see that things aren't going to work out. You jump ship, and jump ship fast, and that's
Yeah,
exactly what he did. And for that to be their big opportunity to get the money back, now all of a
yeah,
sudden it's like, okay, let's see how serious you guys are
yeah,
about being in the game of golf, or are you just going to go back to being a sponsor of
right,
the tournaments in
right,
Saudi Arabia and trying to
right,
reconnect with the PGA Tour? Like, what is this
right.
going to do moving forward? But then it leaves all these players in limbo, Bobby. Like, all these
Well,
players are right now not eligible to play. Do you think the PGA Tour is all of a sudden going to welcome them back?
no, not after all the shit talking and everything like that. Of course, you're going to welcome back if somebody with super stats, somebody like Dustin, or God, as I hate to say, DeChambeau or Kepka or something like that. I don't think DeChambeau, because there was rumors going around that he was getting ready to file a lawsuit against the PGA Tour for not being able to use a greens book. I had heard that umpteen times. So It's funny. I was reading something. I was telling Micah about it the other day, but there was, I like Harry Higgs, you know what I mean? But I don't like where he went social media wise. I didn't like it. It rubs me the wrong way where an average player who's never been close to winning a golf tournament is all of a sudden, I don't know, they come across to me like they're hot shit or anything like that. But, I say hi to him and he's loosey goosey and he's obviously a fucking great dude and people like him. But I did read this article a couple days, I think the day that I was sitting in the airport before I flew to my brother's house, where they were asking him about doing broadcasting and what he thought about LIV, and he fucking flat out said it. And I told Micah this, and he pulled up the article last night. We were talking about it, and he's like, "But Harry Hicks said," he goes, "Well, the fact is we lost all the assholes and the dicks and the villains. Did you happen to read that article? And that's pretty much it. And those assholes, dicks, and villains, and you know exactly who I'm fucking talking about. He's definitely, good thing he did make $8 million last year, because God knows how quick they can spend it over there on the hill in Scottsdale. And
You know who I want
where
back
these
though,
where's
Bobby? I want
who?
Cam Smith back. I
Well,
want
everybody
Cam. I
does.
want Mark Leishman
Leash,
back.
yes, everybody does. Yeah,
Get Lee
everybody.
Westwood back. I like Lee. How about
Yeah,
a little Louis Oosthuizen? Good old smooth Louis. Get him back over
yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I could see that. I mean, he's never really, other than that British Open, he never really won anything over here. Although he was super consistent and everything like that. But remember there's a category out here, top 50 in lifetime money list, gets you status for a year or something like that. But remember when they suspended all those guys, they dropped all those guys off the list, took them off completely, and that moved guys like Sabatini up there and that kind of stuff. So I don't think they're going to bend over backwards to make any rules to let more than two or three players in. So where does that leave like these guys like a
DP
Taylor?
World
If this,
Tour.
yeah, where does Taylor Gooch go? Who is obviously a world class player? Where does that leave Matt Wolf? You can just go down the list. So, I mean, Peter Uihlein had full status out here a year or two and couldn't do really jack shit, even though he's a gifted athlete and a great player. It's just so many questions. So I guess we can't really answer any
Can't
of these
answer him
questions.
now.
You
But
can't answer them
man,
now, but
we can
we're
speculate.
bro, can we ever? Because we're the kings of that. That's what our podcast is based on: gossip and speculation. Thank you very little. So, but I think we'll know here after the fucking first couple of weeks when they start swinging at the end of February or something like
Yeah.
that. We're gonna see then exactly how this thing is going. And I just don't think I think when them coming last year was a big thing for a lot of people. It was something different. It was something entertaining. It was competition, right? It was absolute competition. So, we'll see after I just feel like the fire is not burning as bright as it was before. And you felt that going down all the way until the Miami tournament, because it was pretty much drama, but because we all liked the team part, right? We were all super intrigued about the team part, and we thought it was kind of cool, and it was just something random and something brand new. But man, they could be up shit creek without a paddle, a
They
lot of
really
these
could.
guys.
And it's going to be sad.
Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the
yeah,
day, it fractured the tour and so forth. But like you said,
yeah.
the team aspect was pretty cool. Hopefully, at
you
some
know
point, maybe there ties in something. Like,
yeah,
I go back to the XFL with the NFL, but like the NFL took some things from the XFL when they went
sure,
debunked. And I kind of see the same thing happening if Live Golf goes under, that they're going to
yeah,
go, hey, some of these concepts and ideas were pretty damn good. I mean, they've
and,
already upped a lot of
yeah,
the tour and I wouldn't say manipulated, but changed a lot of the way that the tour operates with these higher purses, trying to get everybody to play in the same events that are the top players in the world. And certainly that live effect has pushed the PGA Tour forward in a good way, I feel like. But at the same time, it's
sure.
like this team event aspect could be pretty cool for like a small little season.
You know what comes into the back of my mind, because we're the only ones to report through my connection that Lefty's done after, or when I thought it was a year, or whenever his year or two contract is up, that he's retiring, he's taking his 200 million plus, and he's out of the
Well, you
game pretty
dropped
much. Gonna
Cantlay's going too, but
Yeah, I
he's
dropped
saying
that,
he's
but
not.
well, of course he's going to say that because that's the right thing to say,
I know.
But at some point through my connection, that dinner happened, and that my guy was telling me this is good. My guy's pretty sharp, and he's telling me this is going to happen. So, but now maybe, you know, because I've checked around, and I don't want to drop any names about how Phil's receptive out there, and I guess he's not well liked amongst the brass. I guess those comments he made early about the Saudis probably didn't, for obvious reasons, didn't go over good, but he's a pretty smart fucking guy, right? So maybe he's already saw the writing on the wall last year, and that's why my guy's giving this information where he's like, well, this thing's going to go fucking nowhere, and I'm not playing any good anymore anyways. And I feel like, you know, I was one of the greatest players of all time. Arguably he was, we all know that, you know, it's one US Open away from the Grand Slam pretty much. And it's just like, I don't know, man. I'm kind of waiting to see what things are going to be like when they peg it. You know?
Are you hearing anything around Mark King anymore? Because after all these executives leaving, either he's coming in with a full squad, or he's like, no, I'm not going into that kind of turmoil.
Well, the talk is the person that I talked to is still talking about how he's coming in. But granted, I hadn't talked. There's not a lot of people to talk to for me and get information during the off season, right? It's more during the season when I see these guys face to face, or I talk to him and that kind of stuff. So as far as I know, that plan's still going, but things seem to be changing on a weekly basis as far as decisions are being made out there. And more importantly, who's making these decisions now, right? With them losing some important players. So stay tuned on that. I should hear something on that in the next week or two. And honestly, I'll make a point to see if I can dig a little information up to see if that thing's on the plate. But if you know, when that happens, like it's supposed to, when are we going to hear about it? Don't you think we would have heard about it by now?
I thought we would have heard about all the player announcements and everything, and all these new guys. Because remember, how many guys was it that Greg Norman wanted? Another 7?
4?
Was it 4 or 7?
4? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
it was something like that.
And like he made it very public that like, hey, we want 4 or 7 more guys to come on over.
The Q school factor. He wants to start a Q school and everything like that. So we got. They have to be saving up some information. They're going to drop bombs on us coming up in February. Remember, I told you the end of January or around the 1st of February is where we're going to hear some more information where they're at. So let's concentrate on the important stuff. Russell Henley needs to play good this week, and Troy Merritt needs to get 4 good rounds under his belt to get us off and running, because only 70 make the playoffs this year, and that is a big deal for us.
Will Russell Henley wear a visor this week? Breaking news, folks. We don't know. Bobby's saying no. I'm going to say yes. Do you want 1,000 pennies on it? No, I do not.
No, you don't, because I can get him. I can get to him. I know him pretty good. And I'm like, hey, I don't ask a lot of favors come Thursday, but this is like the Daryl survey one. Let's just keep on. Man, it's so great when you get to rip on me for my stupidity every week when I get my ass handed to me. And I don't want to take that away from you, Mr. Holden, one pre-qualifier.
I appreciate that. Listen, I bailed off of the pipe dream, okay? But people, stay tuned. We've got more information coming next week, the week after that, because Bobby Brown is back in action. He's focused. He's ready to go. He's ready to go on a run here, folks. So, Bobby, good luck to you this week.
Thanks,
Tell
Matt,
Micah, who's in there as well, good luck to him as well.
Will.
But not as much good luck as to you and Troy. And I hope you guys have a great week.
Thanks, buddy. I look forward to seeing you next week with a rundown. Have a great one, Matt. See
Bye
you.
now.
Bye-bye. See you, brother.
Thank you for tuning in to Season 2 of the Pull Hook Golf Podcast. Make sure to hit subscribe and go to www.pullhookgolf.com for more